The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it, Thursdays here at Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and you. We did not run Justice off. He has got class. But you know what? We're fired up, man. Tomorrow we are on the road at Ameristar, Council Bluffs Casino, 4 to 6, right outside Amerisports Sportsbook. So come on down, swing on by, and place some bets, man. NFL, college football weekend. We're getting you geared up for Nebraska-Purdue. So road show tomorrow. Excited for that. Big show today as we'll spend some time with Brandon Vogel from Counter Read. Damon Benning going to stop on by in hour 2. Gary Barnett with us. And then Burke's Best Bets. Daddy Burke with us. Some NFL and college football thoughts. 489-1240. 489-1240. 800-825-5865 to dial up. Can jump in this first hour and say what you think. Also do our Name Your Score tomorrow when we're at Ameristar and Amerisports in Council Bluffs. We'll get our starting five, and we invite you to check us out on the different channels, not only the Hail Varsity Radio Network, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Like and subscribe there. Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio. Can find Elijah at Herbalessence, at Schmidt_radio for me. So tomorrow Saturday may be that first watch party opportunity for you. You're either hosting or you're going. And I got some questions. What type of watch party person are you? What are you bringing? And I asked that because Elijah, we had a watch party at my place, I don't know, a couple years ago, the infamous 2021 season.
Oh, the Michigan State game.
The Michigan State game, the dreadful punt in overtime. Broken-jawed Adrian doing his damnedest to one-man bandit and will Nebraska to victory along with no first downs in the second half against Mel Tucker's squad. What hurt Nebraska? The Mel Tucker special, a reverse deep in his own, I shouldn't say reverse, a flea flicker deep in his own territory. Got the Sparty kind of going. But Elijah brought his famous, legendary mac and cheese. Your baked mac and cheese.
I did.
What did Will bring?
His presents.
He brought his presents. He might have brought some booze.
Probably a Sixer, probably.
Probably a Sixer. So what type of Husker fan are you when it comes to watch parties? What are you bringing? Are you bringing the sweets? Are you bringing the chips? Are you bringing the beer? Are you bringing the meat? So, you have a watch party. It is expensive to, hey, I'll take care of the vittles. Now, I like doing that with the smoker. Ribs or short ribs on the smoker, and away we go.
And that's what I think is almost required of the host. If you're going to be hosting, the main entree,
beer and the meat.
I say the main entree is up to you. You need to have at least a selection of beer and say, hey, if you guys want one or two, I can provide that. If you want more than that, that's on you. That's my humble opinion.
There's enough booze hounds in our parent group that everyone's bringing a handle of Morgan.
So you're good. You're good. You ain't got to worry about it then. And that's what I think it should be, is like, hey, you know what? I got a couple beers for you. If you're going to be drinking more than that, it's on you, and share the wealth. I'll provide the entree. I think what you as a watch party guest candidate should bring, we're talking chips, we're talking side dishes. If you have a specialty drink of choice, bring some materials for that. Just bring the side items. But most importantly for me at a watch party, make sure you bring some sort of muzzle in front of the TV while the game is on. That's a big watch party must for me, is we can have chitter chatter. We can't have talking over the game. There's a big difference.
Right, and that's fair. And to be honest, it is kind of like a junior high dance with Ferris Bueller, or I should say 16 Candles. The gals are on one side of the gymnasium. The guys are on the other side. The gals tend to congregate upstairs. The guys are downstairs, or if it's nice out, we're back on the patio. So I'm just wondering, what's your go-to when you bring items to a party, a watch party. So throw that in the stream.
So as I said,
I got to clarify, watch party.
Yeah, bring the muzzle, leave the baby oil.
Yes, thank you. It's a T-shirt. That is, that's a horrible T-shirt. Arlo is in.
Somebody would make money off of
I
it.
like it. Arlo, good to have you. Jeff Snitley is here, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty. I know the Snitley boys are bringing Templeton and wings. Cliff from Florida. Cliff, you be safe, big cat. Down in Florida, Grateful Red is here. NASCAR Eric checks in, rounding out the starting five.
Oh, Brian's got a great comment in about what he's bringing. You'll get there eventually. I'm not sure we can say it on the air, but
right. What are you bringing to a Husker watch party? Matthew checks in. KG is here. Grower, not the shower. Okay. Thank you for that self-titled nickname. Jack is here. Tim checks in. And Black Hills Brennan. It is 97 degrees in the gorgeous Black Hills Spearfish area. Anonymous is here. He says, question that I don't know the answer to. Has any opponent quarterback ever gone 3-0 as a starter against Nebraska? I don't know. I would probably chalk up, Hagen went 2-0-1 for Colorado. I think Jamel Holloway probably, Jamel went 2-0, and I think Charles Thompson went 1-1. Brian is here.
This hurts to say. Did C.J. Beathard get 3 starts against Nebraska?
Did he win 3 straight?
I'm just wondering if he got 3 starts against Nebraska.
I don't know. Because the 2015 team won in Lincoln, a tight one. 2014 team lost in overtime. That's the last time Nebraska scored in overtime.
And Beathard was around. So Beathard he was 2-1 because he lost in 14 but won in 15 and 16.
Okay.
And then you went to Nate Stanley in 17.
Yes.
I'm firing up the old Google machine.
Skylar is here, says, what's up, nerds? Great Red Shark is here. Uncle Larry is here.
Nate Stanley 3-0 against Nebraska. 2017, 2018, 2019.
Well, forgettable years. Brian is here. Keys to victory Saturday. What are they? Run the damn ball is one that I'm going to scream. We'll get to Brandon Vogel here shortly, get his take on things. Tiger Shark Diver is here. Says, I'm hanging out with the mayor of New York tonight. Thank you, Tiger Shark. Coach Brandon Kool-Aid is here. 2 days till the next win streak. So Brian says, keys to victory. Mizuka starts.
Again.
Mizuka starts. Blackshirt shut down the run. And 3, Sat commits to the run game by letting Emmett Johnson get meaningful carries. Dowdell closes the game. Not bad. Blake is here, flying from Phoenix to Chicago tomorrow, making it to Wrigley just in time for first pitch, then heading off to West Lafayette for Saturday morning. Blake, make sure you get the weekend edition on YouTube, as we'll be going around 7:45-ish. It's not whenever, never say never is in the stream. And we have Sherry checking in. Sherry saying, here's what she brings to the watch party. Got to bring stuff for nachos and beer, of course. Yes, jalapenos a must, some cheese, maybe a little bean dip or something like that. Okay. So Brian Snitley checks in, might do some smoked cream cheese with peach pepper jam. That's good stuff. Brian says bring
I'm not
guests.
sure we can say that.
Brian says bring guests for the other party goers.
Yeah. I like that.
Is that code? So Matthew is here.
I will say, as we divert from the starting 5, thank you for chiming in. We had a comment in about one of the keys being Mizuka.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday afternoon intel I'm receiving is he is not going to be in action on Saturday.
Really?
That's the Thursday afternoon intel.
That's the
I've
Thursday
received.
little birdie told Elijah Nugget.
Yeah.
He's traveling, though, isn't he? Oh, no.
Yeah, that's what I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
Hope you're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong.
If you're
as
a
well,
Nebraska
but
fan.
I have heard he will not be involved on Saturday.
Okay.
That's the Thursday tidbit that I have received.
Well, I like the Thursday tidbits that are up. I like it. Maybe somebody can help me out with Twitter, because I go to our Twitter handle, and you got to click on the link to watch the show on your mobile device. Don't get it. All right, whatever.
It's up on desktop. I mean, it's not hard. If you find the link, click the link. Also, I suggest join where the party's at, the Hail Varsity YouTube page.
Yes.
That's where I'd say a good 90% of our viewers are found. So if you want to join the party, search up Hail Varsity on YouTube. Click the live link, Hail Varsity Radio, Thursday, September 26th. And get in with all our friends who are currently here. Brian, Tiger Shark Dive, really everyone we just listed off. So hop in there.
Yes, that's we have thrown out the ways to get in touch. So, are you bringing mac and cheese Saturday?
No.
No?
Well, I got to go.
You're busy.
Yeah, I got to go over to my dad's house during the game on Saturday.
Okay.
My brother decided to have a birthday.
Oh,
yeah.
I like it. Wife's working.
Oh, nice.
Yes, real nice.
Nice. That's not too bad.
No, wife's working, just me and the dogs, maybe a Bill Dolman sighting, and that's about it.
Yeah. Well, that shouldn't be too. Anything on the smoker?
No, I think I'm going to go super, super thick New York strips. Grill.
You're tempting me.
Uh-huh.
Ben, if you're listening,
she is
going to
make me pay, though, to get her Peacock code. I don't know what her password is. She's shaking me down. And it's not sharing passwords. It's under the same roof, our friends at Peacock that may be listening.
Some people on this show may have alternate ways of watching this one.
Tiger Shark says, I run a dog trading business on the side. I assure you that they don't listen to me. Uh-huh. So, no, it'll be interesting, though, with Nebraska and Purdue. NFL tonight, Dallas and New York. That used to be awesome. Not so much anymore. Danny Burke will have some thoughts on the NFL and some college picks. But when we talk about really the theme for Saturday for Nebraska, it's bounce back. We've kind of talked about the mood already with this football team and the fan base. And what's interesting, too, is just kind of the trust level. I mean, there's part of the Nebraska fan base. You're out there probably saying, I think they win. I think they cover the 10. But it's something that you're less sure about because of last week. And what we're trying to answer here is Nebraska a good football team? Are they a better football team? Yes. But are they a good football team? Do we have a little bit of Matt Rule time?
Yes, we do.
All right, let's get a little bit of Matt Rule as he checked in this afternoon a little bit earlier. And he was asked about locking in, going on the road. Is it easier? I think that's cut 8 for Nebraska to kind of go on the road, huddle up, and just kind of be you against the environment you're going into. More from Coach as he talked this afternoon.
I think the improvement happens during the week. I think our guys have had a great week of practice, a great week of preparation, a great week of honest evaluation. Staff, coaches, everyone. I think you learn more about yourself when you go through some adversity than when you have success. Right? It's an opportunity to the great ones. They don't just bounce back; they bounce back and elevate. And we're looking to see ourselves bounce back and elevate. And again, you're never going to be a relevant team in the Big Ten if you can't win on the road. And you go into hostile environments. You travel. You stay in a small hotel. Guys are doubled up. It's just different, right? And so, it's a part of the process of. Again, I think maybe we said last week, learning to win. Maybe I should change what I'm saying. Maybe learning how to learning to play championship caliber football, learning how to win at that level. And I think part of that's going on the road and playing at the level you need to play to beat someone. So I'm pleased with the week. We'll see how we do the next 2 days leading up to the game and then the game.
So you've got the walkthrough that is going on the next couple of days. Nebraska's got to focus in, but. If there's no Mazuka, and we don't know, if there's no Mazuka, that affects how I think they're going to run the football. I think you're going to see a heavy Purdue box, and they're going to say, whatever the hell the weather is, freshman, try and take us down on the road.
Well, the weather is the big wild card here. I don't think Purdue goes heavy box. Because I think what Nebraska has shown this year is that they beat you through the air as opposed to on the ground. Like, Nebraska wants to be balanced, but where they're more dangerous is in the air. So I think the Nebraska game plan has forced them to load the box. If they're willing to load the box early, I think you might have more throwing the ball than you'd like. But I think the game plan is going to have to be make them load the box up against your rushing attack. That's my humble opinion.
Well, we'll see. And a little bit more on the kicking part of things. Has Hull had a good week, and is Nebraska better or ready to bounce back and elevate, as Coach says, with the kicking?
John's had a good week of practice. I think he's bounced back really well. And, he's a developing player, right? Everything's not going to be perfect, but he's got all the talent, and he's got a big, big, big leg. And so, his accuracy from outside of 50 was one of the highlights of camp. I mean, he can kick it from 55, 57, and made a lot of them. So just getting consistent with the young snapper. Bushini's done a really good job holding. But John's better this week than he was last week. I'm really proud of his bounce back and the way he's approached it.
So Bluto's advice, start drinking heavily to flounder. Brian's advice, don't kick any field goals on Saturday. What's Brandon Vogel think? Kyle to read. He's up next with Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, Thursday edition, Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. We'll check in with Coach Barnett in a little less than an hour. Todd emails in, chris@hailvarsity.com. When it comes to what's your go-to for watch parties, what do you bring into the party? Todd says that's easy. Never been to one nor hosted. I mainly just listen and watch games. So, Todd, someday, you'll bring that sense of humor to a watch party we're at.
Todd is like me in that my preferred way to watch Nebraska is locked in a dark room by myself, no distractions. That's my style. With
whatever manner of stress treatment you use readily available.
Yeah, kind of like Aaron Rodgers, usually ayahuasca.
Okay. Brandon Vogel checks in with Counterread, counterread.com. Vogues, I don't know if a light's burned out, but you look like you're in a dark, quiet place at your football office behind the backdrop. Can watch this interview on Hail Varsity YouTube, Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. Good to have you in, man. Loved your column today with Counterread on Nebraska and that bounce-back opportunity. A lot of high stakes, for sure, as you go on the road trying to even your Big Ten record. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah, it's a little bit dark in here. I've only got one window. The overhead light's fairly muted, so then I only have one severe light over here. So you get kind of a noir film effect where half of me is lit up.
No, it's kind of like one of those really, really dramatic interviews in some documentary where they bring in the surprise person that you weren't expecting to hear from halfway through the documentary, and here they come with this mood lighting across half of their face. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I've watched some of the Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix. A lot of dramatic lighting there.
Well, is this a precursor to Saturday? Line is 10. How drama-filled will Purdue Pete and West Lafayette be?
I think that my feeling on that is kind of a reflection of where Nebraska's at. Because you could tell me about anything from, a loss to a 6-point win to a 15-point win. When I assess it, in terms of likelihood, I lean a little bit closer to, I think Nebraska is closer to the 14-point win, but they've got to come out and play well, and that's remained a struggle for them. But you mentioned the stakes for this one. To me, this looks like this Purdue program has taken it on the chin the past 2 weeks, and it seems like it might be reeling a little bit. Just kind of reading between the lines with what we're hearing out of Purdue camp this week. So if Nebraska is the team we thought it was when it was 3-0 instead of when it was 3-1, it should come out and kind of handle this game, I think. That said, what's my confidence level on there? It's kind of at a coin flip as to whether we'll see that or not.
Brennan, based on the totality of the first 4 weeks of this season, let's look ahead to Saturday. Let's pretend it's post game. Let's say Nebraska gets it done in convincing fashion. how do they do that? What side of the ball is the side that you have the confidence in going out there and being able to, pun intended here, beat the brakes off the Boilermakers?
Yeah, it's a really good question. That feels like another close call to me as well. I think Nebraska's edge in this game is when it has the football. Based on what we've seen from Purdue, they can do some things defensively. They can get after the passer, but when you just kind of match the numbers up, Nebraska's offense has a slight edge over Purdue in most of the categories that I look at. Defense is when Purdue has the ball, it's more of a mixed bag where I'm sure you guys have been talking about it all week, but that Purdue run game has some impressive numbers if you look. Nebraska, they kind of strike Nebraska at a couple spots where I think post-Illinois, the black shirts look like they have something to shore up. So which side is more responsible for a comfortable win? Probably the defense, because I think it has more questions to answer. But I think if Nebraska's to win convincingly, that point total climbs pretty high, which means the offense would have a decent day as well.
Brandon Vogel's with us, counterread.com. Vogues, interested here with, in your column, you were right on. You've got the wounded animal card to play. Purdue getting annihilated back-to-back weeks with the quarterback run game. KG says Purdue is a wounded animal back against the wall. They'll come out attacking. What animal's Nebraska right now?
Well, I think best case scenario, they can play the Wolverine with a deep leg wound that isn't happy about it. That said, like the hard thing with Nebraska has been kind of assessing that, like in terms of like incentive and motivation. I'm sure you could say the same thing about Purdue because they've gotten smacked 2 weeks in a row, giving up over 700 yards in rushing to the only two FBS teams they've faced so far. That said, Nebraska was a ranked team. It looked like things were, 2 weeks ago, we definitely would have said, and I had written this, and I still think it's the case. It's just a harder case to make. Nebraska was trending upward, and that momentum got stopped against an Illinois team that the more I think about last week's game, not to dredge up old stuff this late in the week, but Illinois was really, really patient. Like they kind of committed to stopping Nebraska's run game. And even though Dylan Raiola was having success, they kind of stuck with it and it paid off, with an overtime win. Like the margins were close here. And offensively, they weren't running the ball that well at all in the first half, but they sure did in the second half and ended up with, I think, 5 yards per carry, over 5.5 yards a carry on first down. This Purdue offense averages 7 yards a play on first down. So when I talk about them kind of hitting at a couple of Nebraska's weak points so far, that's a big one for me.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Vogel with us here on Hail Varsity Radio in the stream. Yeah, I was just going to go there.
Tiger Shark says we're an American badger with one arm. Purdue's a raccoon in the corner with diarrhea. That's funny.
That paints a better picture. So hats off.
Matthew says NU's definitely an aardvark. I just think of all those damn armadillos on the roadway to Texas.
The question to me, I think Nebraska, what they could be is a rescue dog that you've picked up and brought back to the house. And they just acted up for the first time, and you gave them a little spank, and you don't know whether or not they're going to run to the corner or whether they're going to bite your hand off. That's kind of the question right now, which remains to be seen. Is do they run to the corner?
Destroy your spare room after breaking out of the kennel.
See,
little biography here.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track there, Elijah. I might go with a rescue dog that, you bring it home, and it's like clearly it's seen some stuff. It's a little bit skittish, and you work through it for a couple of weeks and think, okay, maybe we're through it. Maybe the dog feels safe in its new home, and then all of a sudden you have something pop up, and you're like, oh, no, it's still there. That was kind of last week, I think, for a lot of Nebraska fans.
Then your neighbor shoots off a M80 after the first touchdown, and the dog goes nuts again. Vogues, let's talk about first down. It's pretty drastically different for Nebraska the last 2 weeks compared to the first 2 weeks with what the defense success-wise has been doing on first down.
Yeah, it's, I think, maybe the biggest difference defensively. And, this it gets a little bit in the weeds a little bit, but I wrote about it after the Colorado game because it was true at that point. Nebraska was third nationally in terms of expected points allowed on first down, which is just, it sounds annoying and whatever, but it's just kind of a comprehensive measure. Right now, they've dropped all the way to 66 after 2 games against Northern Iowa and Illinois. So dead average in that. And I think the big thing is they were really good in this a year ago. And looked that way through 2 games against the 2 opponents who really had much interest in running the ball at all. Wasn't as good. And Purdue comes in, two running backs averaging over 6 yards a carry. Already mentioned what they've done on first down, which this has been a pretty boom or bust Boilermaker offense, but it's going to challenge Nebraska. And it's the sort of game where you want to see where this defense, for maybe just the second or third time, I think, of the Rule era, kind of got whipped a little bit against the Illini. And are they ready to respond to that? Because all offseason, and rightfully so, we all assumed this is the strength of Nebraska's team. Right now, you kind of look at it and be like, maybe Dylan Raiola is, and the upgraded receiving corps are the strength of the team, and that would be a pretty significant change from what we all expected coming in.
But though that on its face sounds like a good thing, is it a weakness for this team if the strength of your team is a freshman quarterback and a wide receiver core that's all new? Is that not a little bit of an indictment on what this team is?
It could be read that way. The Dylan Raiola thing, credit to Nebraska for playing the long game and winning in the end there. But look, his connection to Nebraska played a big role in that. Now, the wide receiver upgrades, they went out and got, they identified a need and addressed it. So isn't it an indictment? Kind of depends to me on where the defense ends up, after we play eight more games here in the regular season. If the defense slips a little bit, but you've upgraded the offense to that degree, that's okay. You could end up in a better spot than you were a year ago. But if we see more of what we saw against Illinois, particularly in the second half, then it might be close to a wash.
Vogue's going to need a little overtime with you to hit a little bit of volleyball. Do you think Nebraska's been figured out on defense? I mean, they've been in the league for a year. This is the second at bat, so to speak, for the Big Ten schools against the 3-3-5. Is that part of this equation?
I think there's the potential for that. I think there's a portion of that potentially in the mix here. A lot of defenses in the spread era run a 3-3-5. So you factor that in. I also think, and Tony White's talked about this a little bit going into the Illinois game. They really put the focus on hey, if we can get a better 4-man rush. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head after the Illinois game, but Nebraska's kind of pressure rate where they bring an extra guy has been down. I think they've felt like they could play things a little bit more straight up. And they were able to up until their first conference game. So I think that's something to watch too in this Purdue game. Does Nebraska's defense get a little more aggressive than it has been, which would probably be closer to what they were in 2023.
Vogues, hang tight for us if you could. We'll take a little time out, get your thoughts on some volleyball and a couple more quick takes on Nebraska football. Brandon Vogel with us from Counter Read. CounterRead.com. We'll get to more of your comments here in the stream. Hail Varsity YouTube. Coach Barnett, Damon Benning, next hour. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Brandon Vogel with us, Counter Read, CounterRead.com. Vogues to kind of wind down, allowed to jump in if you want to, but with Nebraska-Purdue on Saturday. What running back has the best performance? Or do you think we've heard a lot about Emmett Johnson this week? Do you think he could be a difference maker for Nebraska, adding to some sustainable runability? The other part of it, Two is if what we're hearing is true, and we're not trying to throw out false claims, but if there's no Mazuka, that's also different for Nebraska.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's been good to hear Emmett Johnson's name a little bit more this week. You look back at that Purdue game last year, and I think he went for 70-plus yards, had a pretty good day. It was one of Nebraska's better rushing days over the last 2 months of the 2023 season. And he's shown it in, some short bursts here so far in 2024. So I think he's a guy I'd like to see more of as a little bit of a, I don't know if change of pace is the right word. I mean, he's shown a little bit of big play ability, which I think Nebraska quite needs in its run game. With Mazuka, certainly feel better about Nebraska going into Saturday if he's able to go. The Huskers O-line, I thought, kind of really lacked an edge last Saturday. And I think getting a starter back could help there. But you also look at, you're already down to number 2 on your depth chart at left tackle. You would just like to have some more options, particularly going on the road for the first time with the roster restrictions.
Brent, it's just a reality of Big Ten football, though, is your depth chart never looks as pretty in October and November as it does in the Phil Steele preview magazine.
No, it absolutely doesn't. And Nebraska made it through the first 3 games looking pretty good from that perspective. But you just know that things like this are going to, losing a Turner Corcoran for however long he may be out, are going to happen. So depth matters a ton in college football broadly, but I think especially in the Big Ten.
Vogue's thoughts on Nebraska volleyball. They have responded amazingly since SMU. You whack Louisville like they did. They smoked Stanford. Now it's UCLA and SC, which is pretty awesome to have those brands in the Big Ten. But what is flipped, or was it just something as simple as a wake-up call post-SMU?
I think it might have been as simple as that. They responded to the first adversity they faced. The question we all want answered on Saturday from the football team. We've seen it so far from Nebraska, and we've seen it in a big way. How did Rule put it? Not just bounce back, but elevate or bounce back better. Whatever terms he used. Nebraska volleyball has done that in a big way, and I mean this is a kind of a cool weekend, I think. To open Big Ten play, in the early days of women's college volleyball as a varsity sport, it was completely dominated by the West Coast teams. USC was a fixture in that group, and UCLA had its moments. So to get to open with those two teams coming in over the weekend, I think is pretty cool. If you're a longtime volleyball fan, I think UCLA's got 3 losses, 2 of those to top 25. USC's 8-2. They've lost to Creighton and they've lost to Pitt, which hasn't lost a set yet. So Trojans as a top 25 team, I think could give Nebraska a bit of a challenge on Sunday.
Brendan, quickly here, how has this team changed in your eyes since the disappointing loss at SMU?
Yeah, I think team defense wise, they've gotten a bit better. They've been pretty good in the middle, and traditionally, the thing you kind of write in ink with a John Cook team is floor defense. And against SMU, they weren't very good in that. So it was a little bit of getting back to kind of the founding principles, I think, of what the program is built on overall, and they've served a little bit better. So that's always a big piece of things too.
Vogues, how can folks get on board with Counter Read? What are you and Aaron Sorensen up to? And tell us about it.
Yeah, you can check out what we're up to. It's twice weekly Substack newsletter at counterread.com. My big Purdue game preview went up today. So you can check that out now with my kind of 3 keys to the game. Nebraska didn't hit any of the keys that I dream up last week, which was the first time all season they haven't. So we'll see if they can get back on track, but we'll have our game day guide go first thing up Saturday morning. And we'd love to have you. You can check it out for free if you're ready to become a paid subscriber. We, of course, love that as well.
Tiger Shark is asking, do you have a secret room behind that library?
One with more light? No, I wish I did, but unfortunately, these are real bookshelves. Haven't made it to the point yet where I can have a false bookshelf and live out my Scooby-Doo dreams of my childhood.
You seem to have that one book that you pull that the whole thing.
He totally does. He absolutely does.
What would the book be? That's the question.
Dream Like a Champion, available wherever books are sold.
There's a plug.
Well, while we're talking about dream, who wrote that with John Cook, Vogues?
John Cook was the brains behind it. I was the typist's fingers. So yeah, Dream Like a Champion from University of Nebraska Press. Support the local university and find out a little bit of what makes John Cook tick.
We're going to find out what makes you tick when it comes to football watch parties. Most of the time you're on the road or you are observing the games in person. That being said, Elijah brought the legendary mac and cheese. I like hosting them, so short ribs or ribs typically on the smoker. I'm going to go with steaks Saturday. What does Brandon Vogel put on the grill / smoker, or what do you bring if you're going to a watch party?
Yeah, two very different questions. I think hosting wise, it's tough to go wrong. And I know Elijah had his adventure with us on Saturday. It's tough to go wrong with pulled pork. Like it's hard to mess up, and it's a crowd pleaser. I would probably also go burgers, which isn't very exciting, but lately I've been pretty serious about trying to get my burger technique down. So I always appreciate the opportunity there. And then I think if you're a guest, mac and cheese always plays. And maybe make the pulled pork on Friday, drop a little pulled pork in the mac and cheese, and there you go.
And so if you're into making the cheese sauce yourself, make the roux, add the cheese, you add a little barbecue sauce in there. Ooh, boy. So with the burger, are you going smash burger flat top, or are you doing Juicy Lucy, Lentz Tribute, Dinkytown with mozzarella in the middle?
No Juicy Lucy for me, although I can appreciate that and would definitely eat one right now. I'm more of the smash burger. I'm kind of a burger classicist. Give me some onion pickle, thin patties, American cheese, single it up, double it up, whatever you want. I like to keep it pretty simple.
Okay, that sounds pretty good.
80-20, 73-27, what are we rocking with?
Usually 80-20. I think that's about right. You get above that, and you've really got to be on your game because things get a little loose.
Vogues, appreciate you. We'll talk Saturday morning, partner.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
All right, there he is, Brandon Vogel with us. Coach Barnett on the way in hour 2.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? We're not pointing you yet.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you one final time this first hour. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. And big thanks to Brandon Vogel, Gary Barnett, and Damon Benning. Next hour, a reminder about your friends at Neiman and Sons. Family owned since 1981. Neiman and Sons, family run. A company that specializes in roofing, siding, gutters, and a strong commitment to customer satisfaction. And we're talking comprehensive services. When we talk about exterior services, that's commercial, that's residential. And they also do custom exterior lighting, along with roofing, along with siding, along with gutters. And think about this holiday season. You want that house to look as cool or better than Griswold's? Give them a shout, man. Neiman and Sons, of course, community involvement. They have been so passionate and involved with youth football over the years. dedicated to improving the community, reflecting their values and their work ethic and their local involvement, and their trusted professionals, fully licensed, accredited. Neiman & Sons, they built a solid reputation, 40-plus years, quality service, customer trust, second to none. Give them a ring today if you need roofing, siding, gutters, or those holiday/exterior lighting enhancements. Do it today with Neiman & Sons, 402-423-4853. 402-423-4853. Log on today, NeimanandSons.com, and get locked in with Neiman & Sons. Just awesome to have Trevor, Travis, the family on board with us here on Hail Varsity. Appreciate them greatly. Dane Cook going to be in Omaha, Steelhouse, Sunday. So while we're up at Ameristar tomorrow, Roadshow Friday in Council Bluffs with Hail Varsity, we'll give you a chance on the show to call in and get a pair of Dane Cook tickets, which is all good, man.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Looking forward to one lucky listener getting a chance to take him and maybe a significant other, maybe a buddy, a son, daughter,
something like
whatever
that.
It may be, to Dane Cook on Sunday night at the Steelhouse. So we'll have your opportunity to call in and win those tomorrow, 402-489-1240.
Cliff is inviting us down to Florida.
Oh, great time for that.
A hurricane party.
Oh, it is a great time for it then. I said that sarcastically.
He said, you bring the grilled food. My grill won't start in the rain. Cliff, that'd be awesome, man. It'd be so much fun to check Nebraska-Purdue out and then get down to Bama, Georgia.
Well, have you seen some of the projections with this hurricane? It's Helene, is that right?
Helene.
Yeah, where it may intersect with a cold front moving its way through the eastern United States and pause directly over Indiana Friday night into Saturday. That's what the current models are looking like.
30% and greater of rain in the 1 to 2 o'clock Eastern time, which means fourth quarter, which means run the damn ball, which means get downhill, stop the run the ball. Next.
I will say rain bowls, more fun on a grass field. Not for the team, but from like the viewer perspective. I always think of Tim Tebow, that one game where half his jersey is all red because they're playing in the rain. And he has like the dirt in his helmet. That is football.
Think of the
football guys like that kind of game.
Well, the rain game, the last rain game Nebraska performed pretty well in was Jacksonville. They beat Georgia. That was Amir's senior year.
And before that, you have the Thursday night game against Missouri in Columbia.
That was Hurricane Cranac that rolled through Columbia.
And Niles Paul saved us.
Yep, him and Sue. We'll check in. Gary Barnett next. Damon Benning, Hour 2 with Hail Varsity.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back into it at Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Hall of Fame coach Gary Barnett with us. Of course, the Buffs, dramatic fashion last weekend. Coach, you got your poncho packed, it sounds like, because you guys are off to Orlando.
We are, Chris. I'm going to go down Friday. I was going to go down today, but the storm's hitting today. Well, we're not going to get the hurricane there in Orlando. They're going to get a lot of rain. My airline said you might want to change flights, and so I did. We're getting ready for the number one ground team in the country, rushing team, and this is going to be really hard for us. I think our guys are looking forward.
Pretty fascinating to see tight ball games play out. Nebraska in overtime looked like they hadn't prepared. I mean, 3rd and 42 is burned into a lot of Nebraska fans' minds.
Yep.
Just a few plays here and there. Nebraska could be unbeaten, and now they got they have to respond to situations. Colorado, coach, you miss a Hail Mary, you make a Hail Mary, you win in overtime. What was that like for you in the booth?
Chris, one of the most amazing games I've ever seen, and just a game of pure the way it goes. And you talk about the Hail Mary. Well, the play before, he threw a perfect pass to our receiver, and he dropped the ball. Now, he was falling down. Had he caught the ball, time would have run out and we would have lost the game because he would have been on the 2-yard line. How do things work out? And then the next play, we know we have to flush out. We know they're going to come from our right side, so we plan on flushing to the left side. Dave Aranda calls for a defense that has a contained guy on their right side and our left side that would have stopped the play. He made a mistake and went under. So now we have a chance to get outside and throw the ball. We throw it, and on the second he throws the ball, he gets hammered. LeJonte Wester comes from nowhere, slides on the grass, catches the ball, and we go to overtime. And then we get into overtime. They're about to score, and our safety tackles the quarterback in the open field on the 2-yard line, and they have to take another snap. Travis Hunter goes in for his 144th play of the game.
Jeez.
Hits the ball with his helmet, tackles the ball carrier. The ball comes out in the end zone, runs through the end zone, touchback, we win the game. It was just amazing how you never give up, and you never know which play you're going to make is going to make a difference. You just don't know. You just always make them take another snap. It was an exciting game. It wasn't a well-played game by Colorado by any sense. It had just about everything in it.
You know, you watch a lot of college football. What was your reaction to Nebraska? The old red balloon popped. Dylan Raiola was tremendous, but Nebraska's defense has got some questions to answer as they head into Purdue.
Well, they do, but they have some questions to answer on offense. When you look in the numbers on this thing, you see that they only rushed for 50 yards. You can't win that way against these teams rushing for 50 yards, 1.6 per carry. If you're one-dimensional, good teams will get your number. And then 10 penalties, you look at that. The other quarterback throws 4 TDs, and they rush the ball for 168 yards, and they don't have any penalties. And you have 1 turnover. You never know which play is going to make a difference, but you know what? Turnovers, you can pretty much identify that they're going to make a difference. It's the way the games go sometimes, and you've got to be as balanced as you can be. You can't neglect any area. And you don't know when you get into a game which area is going to be your strength. Because the matchups don't get created in practice. They get created in the games.
Gary Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Is there an obligation, Coach, to feel like you have to throw the football because you got this 5-star phenom? What should the emphasis be when it comes to run? I mean, balance seems to be key, and Nebraska's not running the football as well as they need to. Is that because they don't want to or they can't?
Well, I can't answer that one. But I can say this, that the best friend for a quarterback, a young quarterback, is a running game, big receivers, and a tight end. And they work in conjunction together. When you don't have a running game and you're a young quarterback, everything's coming at you and it's coming down to you. It's hard to maintain what you have to maintain in order to win the game. You've got them. Utilize them.
How in the heck do you guys as coaches cover it all? I mean, how do you truly exhaust every avenue so you can get it in front of the kids, get them ready for the week? Yeah, you got a plan for everything, I guess. How do you fit that into the week as you lead up to a football game?
You have all those plays. You have every play. And and that's why coaches go to work at 7 or 6 in the morning and go home at 10 or 10:30 at night. And that's why you have all those graduate assistants and other people doing film work. You've got every play, every single play. You create a worksheet during the week for your players that has every play on it. And it's up to the players to review that, but then it's up to the coach to review the plays on the field. And, you just do it. You just have to do it. I'll guarantee you, if Tony said we didn't review that play, then he's taking responsibility for that because he knows he has to review it. Now, knowing that they've run it and having a plan for it when it happens and being able to execute is another thing. But when you think about these kids and coaches and what they have to do, there's a lot of different plays from a lot of different situations that you have to have a plan that can at least avoid a touchdown. You don't make a zero gain on every play, and you don't give up a touchdown on every play. You got to maintain some balance in there. And so the most important thing is, have they seen this formation, and do they know what's coming from it? You give them a formation sheet every week, and it's got the plays on it. And then you, in practice, try to show them those plays from that formation. You do these walkthroughs, you have about 30% attention span with the players. And so that's part of what you're doing. You're showing them that formation. You're walking through it. You're telling them how to do it. And then you're depending on these guys thinking at that time and about something else. So you're walking a tightrope when you're a coach all the time.
Gary Barnett's with us. Coach, we'll get to some picks here in a little bit. Last thought on Nebraska-Illinois. Do you think Nebraska was prepared for Illinois from a schedule standpoint? And do you think Illinois is undersold? Can they make some noise in the Big Ten this year?
One, I think Illinois was undersold. Two, your schedule, and even having us on your schedule, looked like that was a good thing for you at the time. But it was, and you know what? When you take away 2 plays, it was a good test, and you probably needed to look at that a little closer instead of, reveling in it. Mm-hmm. But, the schedule doesn't help you getting ready for a team like Illinois. It's if you're really good, the schedule doesn't bother you. If you're a young team or you're a young quarterback or you're just trying to arrive, the schedule does bother you because every one of those tough games you learn from them, and you realize how much more effort and how much more studying and how much better that other team was maybe than you during that game and what you have to do to get there. And so those are all learning opportunities and teachable learnable moments, and you got to take advantage of them.
Gary Barnett's with us. Coach, player near and dear to your heart, Ryan Walters. You are, somebody that's been super important to him in his football life. He is having a tough go this season at Purdue. That's where Nebraska heads next. And you were talking the heels of 700 yards on the ground back-to-back weeks for Purdue. And, tell me a little bit about the job that Walters is dealing with. The Big Ten, going into a program that needs to be kind of righted, and it's a big ball game for both teams on Saturday.
Well, it is, and second year is always the hardest, I think, when you're dealing with a program like Purdue, and not so much where you're dealing with a program like Nebraska. You also have a very veteran, experienced coach dealing with your issues at Nebraska. So he's seen them all, done them all. He knows what didn't work, knows what could work. But Ryan is, he's testing the water for the first time, and it's a tough time to be testing water for the first time as a coach because, we're spiraling towards this situation where there's 2 big team conferences, and you're trying to keep your school in it, and you're trying to get into that mix. And right now, in order to do it, you've got to have NIL money. You've got to be able to navigate a tough schedule. You've got to be able to put new players on the field. You've got to be able, and you're learning at the same time. Matt's already done this. Ryan hasn't. He's never seen it from a head coaching perspective until last year, and his eyes are wide open. He's going, holy smoke, how do you stuff? So he's got a really tough job. I think much more so today than it would have been 10 years ago. But and not because of anything other than where we're headed, and the business of college football is a mess right now.
Well, and that was front and center with UNLV's quarterback. What's your take on that? With what do you believe with this story with Sluka, with the money, the promise, and now the red shirt?
Well, I think you're just going to see more and more of that. You saw the kid at SC opted to be a red shirt. Now, he wasn't playing much, and he wasn't complaining about NIL money, but the other guy is. It just, to me, it just spotlights all the issues that are unregulated and uncontrolled in college football right now. And you can search all you want and try to find a solution, and there's only one, and nobody wants it, and that's employees. That's the only way this stops. And so how long is our university officials, presidents, congressmen, fans, how long are we going to put up with this and continue to, because it's this today, it'll be something else tomorrow. And as long as you have no regulation, you have no salary cap, you have no rules, this is what happens. And so it's going to be something like this every opportunity, every day almost, or every week. So you'll see more of it now.
Gary Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, we'll do some rapid fire. Tough one for Okie State last week. K-State got drilled in Provo, -5 Wildcats. What happens in the Big 12 this weekend with these two?
Unless Okie State starts using Ollie Gordon more, Kansas State's going to win this game. Kansas State, it's amazing. If you see the stats on Kansas State and BYU, it's just amazing how close that game was, and it looked like a total blowout. Kansas State outstatted them like crazy. So I'm going to go with Kansas State on this, and they're favored by 6, and everybody looked at that and said, what? I think Kansas State wins this game.
Louisville, Notre Dame.
Yeah, you know.
You don't like this game, do you?
No, I don't like this game. Notre Dame's favored, but they just don't have, the quarterback is not responding the way everybody thought he might, including me. Mm-hmm. It's at Notre Dame, so I'm going to go Notre Dame on this one.
How about Georgia, Alabama, UGA -2? Yeah,
I know. And that's at home. Or no, it's in Alabama.
That's in Bama, yeah.
I'll tell you what. I think you're going to see the genius of Kalen DeBoer in this game.
Okay.
And I do believe the guy's a football, not football genius in the X's and O's, but as a coach and as a mentor. So I think you're going to see this in Alabama.
Okay. -18, Penn State, Illinois. Too many points? Does Illinois?
Too many points.
Okay.
Too many points. Illinois is better than Penn State is good. So I'm going Illinois with the points.
Any shocker here? Arizona's at Utah, Oregon at UCLA.
Well, UCLA played better against LSU last week than I thought that they were going to play. I'll tell you the game I really want to see is Washington State, Boise State.
Yeah, that looks great.
Boise State's 7.5-point favorite. I really like that game. Really want to see that game. Kentucky, Ole Miss. I think that might be something. Ole Miss favored by 17.5, and I don't.
It's a lot of points.
That's a lot of points. Oregon, UCLA. That's too many points for UCLA. 24. No, I think the ones we mentioned are the ones I like. So.
Well, a couple more, and we'll get you out. You got Auburn, Oklahoma. I mean, it's duck and cover time in Norman. They're still ticked off from last week. And then Arkansas is playing good ball. They're at A&M.
Yeah, that one. That may be the best game I think I want to see. And A&M is such a hard place to play, and I think Arkansas is maybe a little better team. So this should be a heck of a game. I'm going to pick. I'm going to go with Auburn against Oklahoma, and I think I'm going to go with. I'll take A&M at home against Arkansas.
All right. -10 Nebraska-Purdue.
I think Nebraska covers.
Okay.
I think they'll get it together. You got two veteran coaches to not recover from that.
Coach, you be safe down in Orlando. I don't know if you're bringing the clubs or not. Have a great call, all right, and enjoy Big 12 football. That's weird to say with the Buffs and the Knights.
And UCF, I know. UCF's the number one. They're the number one rushing team in the country, and they're putting 376 yards a game in rushing on people. So this is going to be an interesting game for us.
Coach, take care. Appreciate you.
All right, Chris. Great being with you.
Coach Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Good to spend some time with Barney.
And he's 100% right. That UCF rushing attack, I got R.J. Harvey on my college fantasy team, and oh boy, is he been putting up some numbers this year.
It's old Gus. It's Gus ball, man. He's getting it handled down there at Central Florida. So we'll get Damon Benning's take on the ball game, as Damon will be in West Lafayette, of course, with the Husker Network. Love getting caught up with Damon and Barney on Thursdays. Reminder to get buckled up. Hands on the wheel, eyes and focus straight ahead. The driver has one job, that's to drive. This message brought to you by the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Buckle up and come find us tomorrow. So we're across the river in Council Bluffs. Roadshow Friday at Ameristar. Council Bluffs Casino just right outside Ameris Sportsbook. Damon Benning up next on Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it, it's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We welcome in Damon Benning Hurrdat Sports Radio, and of course, football analyst extraordinaire for Nebraska football. Whiskey and beer, is that a Boilermaker? Did I get that right?
I don't know. I don't drink either, but as long as we win, you could convince me to do just about anything.
You know, the old sea bass scene from Dumb and Dumber still makes me smile. Is Nebraska getting the tab paid for or buying the tab? How are we feeling about Saturday?
I feel pretty good, man. I think they've been making deposits all week. Right, I started with Sunday and having the extra day to stew, which I know didn't sit well, and we all know about the popular tenor this week from the players and coaches in the press conferences. So I think they've been making these deposits, right? Getting back to the basics, doing your 1 of 11, all the things that MJ Sherman and Dylan Raiola preached about all week, and you hope that come Saturday at 12 EST, it's you get to make withdrawals. That's what games are for. That is why you make those deposits, because when game time you get the chance to go spend that hard-earned money, and I think that's what Nebraska's looking forward to doing.
Yeah, Damon, we talked last week about the team that plays with a chip on their shoulder, and I don't think we necessarily saw that for all 4 quarters. It's not like we saw against Colorado, not like we saw against UTEP. I think losing a game like that is the type of thing that can put that chip right back on your shoulder.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, it's interesting. There's muscle memory and there's doing things a certain way. And Coach Rule talked about, getting back to the process and understanding that you got to prepare each week the same. And I think for the players, sometimes you need like a benchmark, right? So you may think you're doing something at the same level you were previously until you meet somebody else that gives you a different barometer, right? Where it's like, oh, but honey, I did pay attention to what you were saying. And then the next time she may say something that's a few more paragraphs, and it's like, oh, shoot, I have to listen. I was listening, but I wasn't listening as well as I could have. I sometimes think you need a reminder. Now, it's a painful lesson to learn, right? You feel like you left one on the table. You were capable of playing better. But sometimes that's what it takes. I mean, you can either do the humbling or be humbled. And Friday night, Nebraska was humbled. I think they have a much more holistic approach heading into this week.
That's a good word, humbled, when we talk about how it went down. Damon, the expectation or the known quantity was the defense this season, just based on numbers and coordinator. I mean, the party was back. And I'll say this about Nebraska's schedule. They got a little bit of a taste with Northern Iowa. They got a full dose with Illinois. How does this serve them moving forward with a Big Ten that is going to be a lot like Illinois every Saturday?
Well, I think there's a couple of things, and a few of them are hidden. Number one, I think, okay, listen, if we want to be – because we keep hearing tackling and how they got to be a better tackling team. So I think immediately to myself, okay, how can I free my guys up to go play fast and play downhill as opposed to kind of feeling like you're on your heels because you're uncertain or my trust level isn't high on my teammates. So getting back to the basics can help, right? Am I spilling or am I boxing? Am I using my right shoulder or my left shoulder? Where is my defensive help coming from by design of this defense? So just rep those basics. The other thing is for Nebraska, the safest down you play is on first down defensively. You usually have some sort of a base call, right? It's like, hey, base bracket, ready, break. And because you know that offense has the full complement of plays at 1st and 10. So where I think Nebraska has to get better is being better on first down. Maybe they have to shake it up a little bit. Maybe you bring in unexpected pressure. Maybe you utilize the run blitz. Maybe you don't play it as vanilla, because we were quick to fast forward to look at, the third down stop rate or third down conversion rate for offense. A lot of it has to do with winning on first down. I mean, Illinois ran the ball almost a full yard and a half better on first down than they did for the entirety of the game. They averaged 5.5 yards per carry on first down. I don't have to be great at math to know that 10 minus 5.5 is only 4.5. And if you give me 2 downs to make 4.5 yards, I'm 50. But even I may be able to pull that off. So I think Nebraska's got to get back to the basics in terms of we got to win on first down as a defense to give us a better chance to get off the field on third down.
Damon, it was made light of on Twitter. Pro Football Focus did the blitz stats after UTEP and after Colorado, and people said, well, Nebraska's just not showing anything. But we're now 4 games in, and it feels like this defense is blitzing less than last season. How do you explain that in a defense that's billed as being fast and aggressive and blitzing?
Sometimes you can rest on your laurels, right? You're thinking to yourself, okay, we were able to play this way last year. Now we can build on some of the nuances. We're communicating a little bit better. We know more about each other. Let's see where we're at. And now they may be thinking, oh, shoot, these guys got tape too. We may have to get into our bag a little sooner and a little more often than we thought we were going to heading into this one. So sometimes I think, familiarity can breed contempt, and so can complacency. So I'm not saying I think Nebraska's staff was like, hey, we were good last year, we'll be good this year, because that wasn't the message. But I think they're now negotiating the difference between having film of what we do and what we do well versus our opponents having film of what we did and did do well. Now they got to negotiate the difference. Like, what's the thick part in that, in which they now have to hit kind of the next counterpunch move to what they've already put on tape.
Damon Benning with us. He'll be in West Lafayette, part of the Husker Network. You hear him 7 to 10 weekday mornings with Ravi on Hurrdat Sports. Damon, flipping it over to the offense, is there an arm wrestling match going on with want versus need? And what I'm asking about is the run game. You've got a stud quarterback. You've got skilled guys. You also want to be a body blow football team. What's the right percentage, the right dosage here of run game versus throwing it?
It's like you almost have to have self-control. You want to play the long game, right? You know it's a marathon and not a sprint, and you want to be able to run the football because handoff run game will be important in November. There's no way around that, right? Statistically, teams that play for championships in this conference, it's well documented. But in the same vein, in the meantime, gosh, you do like this young wide receiving core. You do like your veterans that you brought in to complement the young speedsters. And arguably your best player on offense is your quarterback. So do I have enough self-control to not have him be the decision maker within this offense while we play the long game? That's the internal battle that Nebraska's going into. If you want to use wants versus needs, you need to be able to run the football, but you want to have Raiola at the centerpiece of your offense. The balance sometimes will be dictated by the flow of the game. You just have to prepare in such a way where you can go either or.
Damon, I want you to throw on your coaching hat here for just a second, because Matt Rule talked earlier this week, I think it was Monday, he mentioned that he might want to get Heinrich Haarberg more involved in this offense moving forward. If that was up to you, if you're the offensive coordinator, how do you get Heinrich Haarberg more involved in this offense?
So if I let him play quarterback, he has to be able to throw the football. And I get it. It's like, why would you put him in to throw when you have a throwing quarterback? You're putting him in to run. I'm not sure Nebraska showed enough with him at quarterback where you still wouldn't have to just think he's running the football. So maybe utilize his legs and his decision making, but add a little RPO, right? Like, give him a throwing option out of that zone read game, because that's not too complicated of a wrinkle or asking him to do too much. But I do think if you use him from the quarterback spot, he will occasionally have to put the ball in the air, because I don't know if even Purdue is bad enough defensively where you can just put a running quarterback in the game and say, here, this is all he's going to do. You're not going to be able to stop it. I'm not sure Nebraska is that team yet. Now, they may put that to the test. We'll see. Now, if he's not playing quarterback and you want him to still touch the football, I kind of like the intermediate passing game where he could be very good running after the catch and you can get the ball out of your young quarterback's hands quickly on the road and allow him to kind of play out in space where you can control the linebackers. Because, I mean, listen, Jenkins is a stud for Purdue, and they've had a hard time setting the edge and giving up big run plays to the QB run game. So maybe you try to isolate Purdue's linebackers and let Harburg go to work that way. And Raiola can still get the ball out of his hands quickly. So there's a couple of different ways to use them. It just depends on how versatile you want to be with the packages.
Damon, I want to backtrack for 2 seconds. What is Illinois' ceiling? And copying that question, what do you think the best case scenario for Purdue is this year?
For Purdue, I'll start there just because they're current. I don't know. They're not very dynamic outside the numbers. They've got to get healthy there. They haven't been able to get vertical in the passing game. Teams don't have to really play them honestly outside the numbers, but they've also been able to run the football pretty well. They got 2 backs that average 6.5 yards between the two of them, between Love the third and Maccabee. So if I'm a glass half full and I'm a Purdue fan, I'm thinking, well, we've been able to run the ball without being able to throw it worth a lick. It's just not going to be enough against teams that can make explosive plays, and Lord knows our defense has given up enough of that. For Illinois, I think it's a good team. I don't know about a better than good team. I could see this being a huge letdown spot for them. I think they were really looking forward to playing Nebraska. I think they had that kind of edge. You could tell Coach Bielema during coming out for the handshake line and the celebratory gestures after the sack and the overtime. He wanted that game badly. Now, are they the type of program where they can replicate that and go to Happy Valley? Maybe. I mean, Altmaier's playing at a high level. So I don't think if it falls on his shoulders, but I do wonder if that run game comes back to life in Happy Valley. I could see them in a classic letdown spot against Penn State and losing by a fair amount, and then all of a sudden the transitive property will be in full effect that Illinois wasn't that good to begin with, and the hand-wringing will start again, and we will have only potentially beaten a bad Purdue team. That's why Nebraska just has to make it about them. The scale is constantly tipped based on our emotions. Nebraska's just got to worry about them and become their own benchmark.
It's Damon Benning here and with the Husker Network, Hurrdat Sports Radio weekdays. And Damon, safe travels. We'll catch up again. Thanks for the insight, man.
I appreciate it. Have a great rest of the show.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Again, Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino tomorrow, road show at the Sportsbook, Amerisports, 4 to 6. We're set up right outside that entry, and come see us, come say hi. We'll have some goodies to give away. Also, Dane Cook tickets to hand out tomorrow. We'll tell you when to call. Elijah will get you connected on that. Danny Burke with us now. Burke's Best Bet, burksbeats.com, Skotastic.com, and Odd Shopper. Danny, it is a glorious weekend of college football and NFL. Are you on Dallas or New York tonight, or are you just like, no, I'm pouring a beer and I'll watch, but I ain't playing?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of both there, Schmitty. I'm actually giving a little Nebraska shout-out for my play in tonight's game. I'm going with Wan'Dale Robinson over 34.5 receiving yards against this Dallas Cowboys secondary that is frankly very banged up, and even some of the backups are a little injured heading into this game. And you look at where the spread's at, about 5.5, even touch 6 at some spots. So the assumption is that naturally the Giants are going to be trailing. They're going to need to be throwing the ball. And the Cowboys have been terrible defensively all throughout, but opponents' yard per completion at about 12 per pass completion is what they're allowing. Now, of course, also all the attention is going to be diverted onto Malik Neighbors. The dude's been an absolute stud, so you're going to try to lock him down as much as you can. That should open up the next top receiver, which is Wan'Dale Robinson, who's got the second most targets on the team and has really kind of made a name for himself this year in the short amount of time that they've played so far. So I look at 34.5 and I actually think we're seeing a bargain. So I like going on over for Wan'Dale Robinson and his receiving yards. Small lean to the Cowboys with the spread, guys. I didn't end up touching it. It's a short week. It's a division game. Yes, the Cowboys are the better team despite what we've seen, and the Giants are still the Giants. Though Daniel Jones actually last couple of games has looked, and bear with me here, relatively better. So I do think he'll be efficient enough to keep it close and not really feeling confident enough to sweat out that 5 in a hook spot.
Yeah, and it's got to help Daniel Jones whenever he can just throw the ball up to Malik Neighbors 15 times a game. And, probably 10 of those times Neighbors is coming down with this. That's a big win for Daniel Jones. We'll see what happens tonight. Danny, I want to get your read, though, on college football in Nebraska. You're going with Wan'Dale Robinson tonight. Are you going with the Huskers on Saturday? A lot of points, 9.5 or 10, depending on where you get it. Nebraska-Purdue, maybe the rain plays a factor. Nebraska down on themselves after last week, potentially. Maybe they're motivated. Do you have a play for Nebraska and Purdue?
Yeah, look, this is such an intriguing spot. I mean, last week we talked about the game against Illinois, and it was in the same spot in terms of what Nebraska was laying, except it was at home. And as we know, they lost outright. And it was a game they should have won, and they were really just unorganized. A lot of penalties. The defense was like Swiss cheese out there. Raiola was phenomenal, just bad on the defensive side of the ball. And you still got to give some props to the Fighting Illini. They're a very tough team, but that's a game you can't lose. But heading into that, it seemed like it was an uncomfortable amount of points to want to lay with Nebraska. And I share that same sentiment in this spot. Now, that's not to say that I don't think Nebraska is that many points better than Purdue. I'm not high on the Boilermakers whatsoever, but it's still just needing to believe it and see it with this Nebraska team playing on the road in a conference game. How do you respond with a young quarterback here? And after being kind of so disorganized and shooting yourself in the foot, how do you respond the next week? If they were to beaten Illinois, even if they didn't cover, I mean, we'd be having a much different conversation. And yes, you want to take recency bias out of handicapping, but because of all the nuances with this Husker team, I just need to see what kind of attitude and mentality they're going to have looking to bounce back, because that is such a devastating loss. And again, it's not to knock the Fighting Illini. We just all know that's a game Nebraska should win 99 times out of 100. So I'm going to sit back and hopefully try to relax, not taking anything in terms of the spread, even from an objective standpoint. I think it's a complete stay away. I know we were talking about Dowdell a couple weeks ago and then last week as well. I actually ended up jumping in a little bit on his rushing yards prop. They don't adjust it too much. I still think you look for him to get some action on the ground effort. Again, correlates with the spread if Nebraska does have that comfortable lead, and even if they don't, they're still going to want to emphasize pounding the rock, and I think they can do so against Purdue. He's averaging 5 yards per carry, so I think you keep riding that train until it stops.
Daddy, the number right now is 48.5. How do you look at games that could be affected by weather? I mean, take me into that realm of things, because you're going to have all parts of the country potentially just beyond the Sun Belt dealing with the hurricane.
Yeah, look, the biggest thing when it comes to handicapping in terms of the weather is the wind, right? That's going to have the biggest influence on a total and in a game in general, right? The wind's going to influence how you throw the ball, how you kick the ball. That is the biggest factor. Yeah, rain can play a little bit of an impact in it, but nowhere near as significant as if you're getting double-digit or higher type of wind conditions. So if the wind's not too crazy, I haven't gone fully in-depth to see it, and it's just a little bit of rain, and you were thinking of betting the over, I wouldn't let it deter you too much. But in general, I would still gravitate toward the under for this game. It's a road spot. Again, you're within the conference, and it's all the big question of how does Nebraska respond? And if they are going to be the team that we and themselves envision them to be, their identity has to come alive and respond on the defensive side of the ball. And knowing it's this Purdue team that should be struggling, they should probably be able to step up, limit their scoring. And just because, again, for the situations already laid out, Nebraska's offense may be a little bit slower to get up off the couch. So in the first sense, I would already be looking toward the under. Even though I said rain doesn't impact it that much, if I already liked it with the preconceived notion to the under, that would make me feel a little bit better. But overall, guys, yeah, wind's going to have the biggest influence among all the weather conditions.
Danny, Greg in the stream asks if you like the Bama money line against Georgia. As it stands right now, Georgia's a 2-point favorite. Need your thoughts on that one and anything else in college football you like this weekend?
Man, that game scares the crap out of me. You get both sides of the argument, right? I mean, Georgia, it's like, okay, really? They're going to be, catching points in this situation. And it's still the Bulldogs who are completely dominant. Alabama, a little bit of turnover. We're not maybe as convinced because you haven't seen them go to a real true test yet. I think it's a great live betting spot. And you also have to take into account whichever team loses this game, it's really not going to impact them too much in terms of making the playoffs, right? It will for seeding, but it's not the end of the world like it had been or would be in seasons past. I think my favorite bet would probably be looking at the total going over. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring in this one. A bet that I have made college football-wise tomorrow night, sticking to the Big Ten, I'm going with Rutgers, actually. Laid -2. I think you could actually get -1 in the hook right now, but I was high in this Rutgers team coming into this season. I know when we talked, I thought the Scarlet Knights were actually the one spot Nebraska may fall short before Ohio State, not Illinois. Not completely sold on this Washington team with all their turnover quite yet. Hey, these West Coast teams have struggled coming into the well, they're not Midwest, but you get the point. The OG Big Ten team territory. So I'm going to keep riding the hot hand. Took Michigan last week. Going to be riding Rutgers on Friday night.
Danny, a lock on the NFL slate Sunday.
Broncos plus 7.5, right?
Hey, you guys can yell at me all you want. The first bet I made, believe it or not, was the Chicago Bears. And you guys know I like to trash the Bears. So I'm telling you, I'm being objective here. The Bears are 4th and 3rd, respectively, in EPA and success rate defensively. The Rams are like 30th and 31st. They're completely injured all over the board. They're going to be coming down off that roller coaster of a win last week. The Bears are in desperation mode right now. Don't listen to the public narrative. Caleb has improved each and every game. The line is screwing him. Eberflus is still a Nimrod as the head coach, so that may be the biggest disadvantage, of course, is McVay versus Eberflus. But I took the Bears on a cheaper money line price. I do believe they get the job done. The Rams are just too hobbled.
Danny Burke with us. Burke's Best Bet, burksbeat.com, Kotastic, and the money line. Danny, we'll check it again. Appreciate you much, my friend.
All right, you got it, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Big thanks to Danny Burke, Gary Barnett, and Damon Benning this hour. Thanks to Donald for making the show in. Better late than never, Donald. All good, bud. Get the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play for the audio. Hail Varsity YouTube is where you can watch or rewatch the show. Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. Give us a follow there. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Sexy Grinch crew is in, which is nice. Good to have Matt checking in as well. And apparently Great Red Shark thinks I crushed heaters back in the day. Just had to, or stogies. Can't confirm nor deny. I just will say, and Elijah can vouch for this, I don't have great lungs.
Asthmatic as hell.
Yes. There was a lot of secondhand smoke as a youth and as an adult before they banned them. Jeff got in. Appreciate you, Jeff. Matthew's here. Good to have Matthew in.
Cliff out of nowhere says he'd rather have pneumonia again before West Nile virus again.
Yeah, I've had pneumonia.
I've never had West Nile.
I've not had West Nile.
I've heard that
either.
one's rough. But speaking of that, as we play Would You Rather, let's lock in here. Football Would You Rather with the game this weekend. Would you rather have a game in the downpour or in the snowstorm? If it was up to you.
Oh, I want snow. Yeah. Am I playing or am I watching?
But either. Player and watching.
I love HD TVs with snow. It's incredible.
But the game quality does always turn to crap.
Run the football.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you.
Give me the snow.
Remember that one game? It was in the snow when the Patriots and Tom Brady put up like 50 points on the Bills in the snow.
They did that. I think it might have been Chicago. Sorry, Danny, as well. Brandon Vogel caught up with us in our number one. Come see us at Ameristar in Council Bluffs tomorrow, 4 to 6 road show right outside Amerisports, their sports book. NFL games galore this weekend to put some heat on. Nebraska-Purdue, of course, and you've got Rutgers, Washington. You see a ranked Rutgers team if they survive tomorrow night coming into Lincoln. We'll see what Nebraska does. We'll have our Friday show tomorrow again on the road at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino, weekend edition. Before Nebraska-Purdue. Real Red Reaction follows probably about 2:15-ish after the Nebraska-Purdue game. And, can't wait for it. Do we do steak and a beer tonight?
We can.
All right.
Omaha, Westview, Lincoln North Star?
No. We're not betting high school action, you fiend. We won't do that.
It should be a great game for
Next
our local
time you and I
listeners.
show up to do a ball game with our NSAA pass, weren't you guys talking about wagering on high school? We were kidding, sir.
Steak and a beer. It's not actual money.
No, it's as good as money. I owe you. NFL tonight?
Yeah, so we step in with the Giants as 5-point underdogs at home.
That's a lot of points. I thought they were going to get rolled by Cleveland last week. Everybody you wrote off won outright as dogs. I hate doing this, but I'm going to have to go with Dallas in honor of Uncle Andy, my brother-in-law. He's the biggest, how about them Cowboys guy.
I just traded for Malik Neighbors in fantasy yesterday.
My kid's still mad at me because we didn't draft him on our fantasy team.
He carried my college fantasy team last year, but the hope is that he'll carry my NFL fantasy team this year. I think he carries me tonight. Give me the Giants +5.
You want the hook or no?
No.
All right.
No hook. I got Cowboys winning this game. Let's go 21-17.
Yeah, they're usually pretty classics until this year's teams and roster. We'll talk to you tomorrow from Ameristar, Council Bluffs. Come see us. Cross the river. And thanks for tuning in to Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.